Hi, I'm Elias, and today I'm going to showcase this full stack application and Nodes Taking App that I built using the Django for the backend and Next.js for the frontend. This is how the application looks like when you're already logged in. I'm running the application in my local machine using Van for the Next.js application, and I'm using UV to manage Python dependencies and environment. So it has three functionalities per node. You can choose between pin a node, archive a node, and delete a node. If you pin a node, it will stay in the top always, even if you create a new node. Let's try this functionality. We are using optimistic updates. What that means is that we do all the stuff in the front end first and then try to consolidate in the backend afterwards. And that's really useful because it's a lot more responsive for the user. And if something goes wrong, we will undo the changes in the front end and tell the error to the user. Anyways, let's create a new node. This will be test node 5. You can choose between all the available categories and even no categories. We can choose between priorities and we can set up tags and content, of course. So I will set up the tag cool and I will set up really cool here. We can choose between save and cancel. Let's save for this one. Let's try our search functionality. We can search using the title, the priority, the tag, or the content. For example, if I put cool, the test node 4 has the content cool, but test node 5 has also the content cool and the tag cool. Better test only has one cool, right, in the tag, so that's why it's at the lowest. We can also manage our own categories. Here we can decide between creating a new category or even deleting one. Each category is handled per user, so even if I delete this category, this will not affect the remaining users. Let's try the archive functionality. Let's archive this node and this one. So when we go here, we have the nodes here, right? Okay, let's discuss a little bit about the application architecture and its more technical side. At the root, I have two directories, the backend for the Django app and the frontend for the Next.js application, of course. This is a high-level architecture. As I said, it's a client and backend architecture where we are only using the Next.js static functionalities. We are not using most of their server-side stuff, as we just need the static build. And then we're using the Django for the backend. I'm using SQLite as this is used as a test application, but it's built in a way that is really easy to change for a more production-grade database used as Postgres or MySQL. This is the authentication flow. The browser, that's our static application, will send the data to the backend, where we will validate the credentials if it's a login, or we create the credentials if it's a sign up. If everything goes well, then we will send the GWT tokens, and then the browser will store the tokens in the local storage. And from that point on, all the AP requests will be sent using our tokens. Then in the backend, we will validate the GWT tokens, and we will isolate the data. So one user can only access their own data, right? And then we will send that to the user. This is what we are doing to only send the correct data to the user, and these are the diagrams. We got the user, the category, and the node. As you saw here, it's not needed for a node to have a category, so it's a nullable property, but it is required to have a user. So each category is owned by a user, and each node is owned by the user and optionally by a category. I have more info here. And something I would also like to showcase is the API schema. So as we can see here, it's served in the same server of our backend. I have 4 endpoints to manage the authentication and a bunch of other endpoints for the nodes and categories. This one is the Django classic one, where you use the username and the password, and you get back the access and refresh token. In the sign up, it's quite similar, but you just send your new email and your new password, and it will always go right. Here we get the information about the user by sending our tokens in the headers. All of this stuff is used in the optimistic UI stuff I mentioned before, and that's why the application has really great motions. Well, it was a cool project. Thank you.